Some of the stories making headlines in West Africa. Now, that's a region where there's been a week of high stakes developments, from terrorism trials in Burkina Faso, political crackdowns in Mali, and election tensions in Ivory Coast, to Niger's moves to tighten control over its gold and high profile disputes over the world's biggest Mars rock. Well, Mali also celebrates the return of Timbuktu's priceless manuscripts after 13 years in storage, and arrests of soldiers accused of plotting against the government. What does all this mean? To help us unpack all of this and what it means for the region, we're now joined by political analyst and conflict resolution expert, Dr. David Matsanga. Dr. Matsanga, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us on Rise and Shine.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Peter Ndoro. And good morning, South Africa, the giant of Africa. Wake up. Let's go and work for Africa.
Amen. Let's begin in Burkina Faso. We see there 13 people sentenced to life in prison over a 2018 attack on the French embassy and army headquarters, with more than 60 others receiving long sentences. How significant do you think this verdict is for the junta's fight against jihadist violence?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to commend the head of state of Burkina Faso, Captain Traoré, for his Pan-Africanism, the sense of Pan-Africanism that we have seen rekindled the hopes of millions and millions of Africans, that at least there is someone who can stand up and speak for them. The sentencing means quite a lot, because there have been several people criticizing the government of Burkina Faso for abuse of human rights, or they're saying they're against the French, or whatever it is. This means there is rule of law taking shape in that country. And indeed, there is rule of law. There is no mess like any other place that you see in Africa, where there is a mess, where people have taken law in their hands, kidnapping people like the bigger one across West Africa, in ECOWAS, in Nigeria. So in Burkina Faso, people are strict. They take you to court. If the court releases you, you go home. If the court says you go to serve sentence, you serve sentence without interference. That young man does not interfere at all.
All right. I suppose a big question, though, is this attack took place in 2018, and that given over half of Burkina Faso's 26,000 conflict deaths occurred since 2015, happened in the last 3 years, do these convictions help restore public confidence in the state's ability to protect its citizens?
Yes, they do, because you know that there is one thing that you must do. Everybody has discredited military regimes. A military regime, they have tried to discredit it. African Union has banned it from its meetings. This is why I've been saying we must build back credibility. There's public credibility. There is a push for a fight against terrorism in Burkina Faso. You can feel it on the streets of Ouagadougou. You can feel it in other cities, that someone is doing something to fight terrorism. Unlike the states of Nigeria, where everybody is kidnapping everyone at any time, any minute, demanding money. You can't feel anything. But in Burkina Faso, it brings back confidence, Peter.
Let's go to Mali now. 36 soldiers there, including a former regional governor, were arrested for allegedly plotting against the government. What does this reveal about divisions within the military and the junta's hold on power in Mali?
There is something creeping in, and you don't lose hope. You yourself, you know, the French never give up. French people and the French soldiers never give up toppling other governments that they feel they are not happy with. They have tried several attempts on General Gota. They want him out, because it is the Mali is the gateway for all the problems, for all the trade, for everything, like the former Sahara to a Sahara trade. through all those capital cities into Carthage and Tunis up there to the Mediterranean Sea. It has been blocked because they have nothing. The French were surviving on Mali for a long time by fueling insurgents, by even at one time even being in bed with terrorists. We have now seen what is going on around the world. You can see what is taking place in Gaza. It's not very good at all. You can see every place. So this is not the first attempted coup. This is not even the first and the last. There will be very many. So all what these leaders would do, some of us who have had audience with some of them, we tell them you have to watch, don't sleep, watch, have one eye on the other side. The French could come back and topple you and install a government in their favor.
So the French is one side of this story. Another might be people are saying that, look, yes, there are military juntas that have taken over some of these West African countries, but the stories are slightly different. Burkina Faso is one, Mali is another, and we're seeing there figures like the former Prime Minister Moussa Mara also detained. Is that an indication that maybe the democratic transition is closing there?
Democratic transition to where? Peter, I've told you politics. We took over wrong political systems of Europe. We have not yet reached a level, Peter. The only country in Africa that has reached a level where people vote and go home without a stone, without killing one another is South Africa. Thank you very much. Ghana, thank you very much. Senegal, thank you very much. Liberia, thank you very much. Which other country, tell me, in Africa where people, once they hear the word elections, and Tanzania, yes, once you hear elections, people vote and go home and listen to results. It's only you people in Africa, in the entire African continent, where people vote and go back home. The whole of Africa, when you hear about elections in Nigeria, you better prepare a machete because someone is going to come and kill you. So which democracy are you talking about? Peter, Africa must find its own democratic principles. Look at yourselves and find other solutions. This one of democracy of competition in Africa creates more deaths on the streets than democracy itself.
Okay, then let's go to Ivory Coast, where we're seeing protests erupting over the exclusion of Laurent Gbagbo, Tidjane Thiam, and other opposition leaders in the October election. What does that say about the state of democracy in Côte d'Ivoire?
No, I have just told you. That is it. Look at that guy. Look at Ouattara. You and I, we have come across Ouattara several times. You remember you as one of the senior journalists on the South African soil. We have seen Ouattara. Ouattara himself is not from Ivory Coast. And I want to prove him to say he's from Ivory Coast. He's from Burkina Faso. He took over power. He created a war. He took Babougo to court. I struggled. Babougo in the ICC. He's out. Now, when he comes out, he knows that he lied. Even God knows he lied. The French stole him. Now he has kicked other people out. He said they are not Ivorians. They are not Côte d'Ivoire people. But he himself is not from Côte d'Ivoire. Let him go to Burkina Faso if that is the type of politics he's looking for. But let me come to one thing. I told you, Peter. Politics, which democracy in Africa are you talking about? You see this guy knocks off all opponents, then he says, at least, and I've made it very clear on this television, on your radio station, but people watching me. In my country, President Museveni does not remove opponents from the ballot paper. President Museveni allows you to come to the ballot paper. They count your votes, but not to eliminate you, not through technicalities. That is the truth. And I give a credit where it is due. I don't succumb. I think you know I'm the longest political opponent who has been there since 1982 against His Excellency. But when it comes to politics of the vote, he allows you to come and you are eaten by the vote. But Ouattara is doing nonsense. What politics are you talking about, Peter Ndoro? There's no politics, no democracy in Ivory Coast. That is another coup in making. And I've been telling you that.
My concern, and I wonder if we shouldn't be worried about this. I mean, the last time we had Ouattara versus Gbagbo, there was a civil war in the country. Can these protests escalate?
That's why I'm telling you there's a coup coming. I'm a student of International Institute of Strategic Study, life member, not a student, a member of Chatham House. How you think I can't see there's something wrong coming there? There is something coming in Ouattara. Ouattara is just a simple French mall installed in Cote d'Ivoire. It's not supposed to be there. It was installed backed by the French. I and Mbeki were the last people to leave Abidjan with Chisano. We know exactly what Ouattara did, what the French told us to get out of the hotel. Mbeki is there, still alive. We know. But God does not lie. God always comes back to hit back at the French. The more they created. They took Babugo. I struggled with Babugo case as if I'm from Ivory Coast until I saw Ocampo trying to fix Babugo for nothing. And simply because the French own ICC. Peter Ndoro is a long story. Let there be a warning.
Right.
That's a civil strife coming again, and we shall have Abidjan going down.
All right. Mali has welcomed back Timbuktu's treasured manuscripts that had been hidden in Bamako since Islamist attacks in 2012. What's the significance, do you think, of their return for Malian identity and cultural pride?
This is historical pride for Africa. The entire trans-Saharan trade, the triangle trade. You remember the trade from Europe to those places through the port Carthage. Some of the younger men who don't know what Tunis was called Carthage, the capital city of the northern Mediterranean Sea, where you come, you carry gold, salt, whatever you have carried goes through that city. And that city is monumental, is UNICEF. It is educational. United Nations have declared it as one of the wonders of the world with manuscripts. So terrorism had killed that city. And Gota has fought back and restored peace in that city. It is very good sign that everything is coming back to normal, and we shall be soon visiting that city as Africans and the younger generation to see what our founding fathers were doing in Africa.
Fascinating story. Niger is investigating how the world's largest Mars rock found on its soil was sold at an auction in New York for over $5 million. What does this case reveal about Africa's vulnerability to losing valuable heritage and resources?
Peter Ndoro, again in Africa, and let the Africans hear me and hear my voice. I always tell them, you have lost, nobody talks for you. Don't we have a department in African Union globally money every day that it keeps our heritage? It looks at Africa. It is not there. They are in Addis Ababa here, eating money, eating dollars every day. They should protect Africa. A spokesman of African Union is the chairperson of Africa. You stand, if I were the chairperson of African Union, Dr. Matsanga, I would walk like on Indian Ocean. I would walk on Atlantic Ocean, walking, saying, I represent Africa. This guy we selected is just picking dollars every month, flying, is even dwarfed by the problems, by difficulties, by his own imagery. He's not seen. We should be speaking for Africa, not each country going to speak on its own. We should be protecting Africa. Trump is harassing Africa with tariffs. Nobody is talking. Nobody is coming up to say, no, this is not very good. No African leader should go to that place. For example, African leaders, if next month, you are going to see them running to New York to spend our little money. For what? This man does not want us to even have money. You are running to give him money. Send your ambassadors to make speeches in the UN. That is the Africa that Nyerere wanted. That is the Africa that Sekou Toure wanted. That is the Africa Nkrumah wanted. That is the Africa Jomo Kenyatta wanted. That's the Africa Obote wanted. Gabriel Nasser wanted that type of. Amina Kabura. You look, Mandela would say, what is going on? But here, look, our stone is taken. Somebody wants you sells it while you are seeing, and here, don't go near it. Don't go near it. Now they took it, then they don't go near it. Then they sell it at 5 million. We are at a very dangerous situation as Africans. We don't have a spokesman.
Dr. Matsanga, it's always great talking to you. Thank you. Your insights always appreciated on our program. Thanks for your time, and we'll chat again next week.
Very much, Peter. Good morning.
Thank you. That's Dr. Matsanga, a political analyst, as well as a expert in conflict resolution, speaking to us about what's happening in West Africa. And it's not always a great story, unfortunately, on the continent. But one hopes that things will start to move in the right direction by and large. It's time for your news headlines. Here's Onel.